Hello everybody, it is me, Game Penguin 21, and today, Steam Next Fest. It's happened, and what have I been playing this week? Well, mostly these games are the ones that I decided to just pick up for this weekend, and I wasn't impressed with some of them. Now, that's not to say that all these games are bad, just that some of these games left more to be desired in terms of them. But yeah, in overall, I decided to just play them for a collective hour or two because it was late at night and I wanted to get a video out at least for Saturday because I've been doing Next Fest every year pretty much, and with the end of this month coming up or Next Fest whenever, I wanted to see what some of the games were coming out, and a couple of them actually did surprise me. Now, that's not to say that I am going to be full on with these or go full into detail with some of them, just that these are my first impressions of these game demos as to what I can expect from these games, and these were just the ones that looked the most interesting. I narrowed it down to about 4, so yes, we're going to be keeping this a very quick one because this is a Saturday video, and I'm also very tired and just wanted to get a video out for this Saturday because, reasons. Overall, what do we have here for Next Test demos? And don't worry, this is more also for a small update video, which I will get to more at the end of this video. But let's start with some of these ones right here. First up we have is The Corruption. Now, The Corruption was one that I thought would be really cool because I thought it would be like a Doom shooter. But no, in my honest opinion, it seems to be more of some sort of horror game or some sort of abstract artsy game, which is not really my cup of tea, but I decided to try it anyway, and overall it is not terrible, but I just didn't get it because I didn't really read the actual description of the game. It seems like you're going through some sort of corrupted, not AI system, but corrupted like digital system of the world where it seems to be like some sort of post-apocalyptic thing. I didn't really like it because it gave me a weird sense of unease. Not that that's a bad thing, just that it was more scary than I thought it was. So it was more of like a horror shooter. But again, that's not really my thing. It just seemed to be kind of bland. Not bland as in terrible, bland as in the actual game environments and the enemies and the weapons and things. It didn't feel like real, if that makes sense, and I prefer more realism. And again, this is not to knock the game, because it's most definitely not my cup of tea, because it's a horror type game, or at least it felt like a horror type game, but it's an interesting concept, like you're going through a corrupted AI or a corrupted system of the world trying to, I guess, get to some sort of salvation or something. But it just didn't grab me. I thought it would do better. You do get a gun towards the latter half of the 10 or so minutes that I played of it, and you do get to shoot and destroy things, and it is okay as an idea, but I'm not too certain that the game is actually that good, at least for me. So, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this one unless you are into some sort of those more abstractly interesting games that you just kind of like to see every now and again. Next up here, we have Chambers. Now, Chambers was one that I actually became a little bit more excited about. Why? Well, because it's made by JFJ and Mr. Pink. Who is JFJ and Mr. Pink? Well, JFJ obviously is a person, I believe he's from Texas, where he is a content creator who I watch very vehemently, and he also played games such as Golden Light and The Finals, which again, hell yeah, and several other games that I really do enjoy. And Mr. Pink is the creator of, I believe, Golden Light. I think that's him. I'm 90% certain that's the same dude. But he is also, I believe, a content creator, but he made Golden Light, which is probably one of the more abstract and weird games where you can go into the meat zone. I actually do want to stream this game. But what the fuck did I just play? It seems that was the entire thing going through my brain as I was continuing to it. The controls felt a little bit floaty, but in like not a bad way, in an okay way. The general thing is I'm a fan, but honestly, this caught me in a death loop for a while when I continued playing the game up until a point. It seems to be some sort of an open world styled game that is meant to kind of sort of it's meant to kind of sort of get you to specific locations to allow you to do things. You do get like things like a horse that you can ride and jump on. You get things like different weapons and holstering systems, and it is quite interesting. When you get like captured, there's like a little mini game where you have to lockpick, quote unquote, your way out of a thing, which is fine and it's not terrible, but I honestly, it didn't really grab me. It felt like I was playing a very interesting PS2 game, like one of those cursed cartridges that you hear about on creepypastas and stuff. But again, that's not really a knock against the game. It's not to say that the game was bad. It just didn't grab me, and it feels like it needs to be one thing that I just kind of casually go through rather than just try to sit through and play to review it. And I think that that's what they were going for, and yeah. Overall, the story for that seems to be something along the lines of your girlfriend was kidnapped by, like, aliens or something, which, again, goes to show you how different that and Golden Light seems to be, aka not very much. The shooting mechanics were very much the same as Golden Light, from what I could tell. There didn't seem to be any melee mechanics there, at least, again, not from the 20 to 30 minutes that I played of it. Again, that's not to say that the game is bad, just the game that it's another game that didn't necessarily grab me from the get-go, but I did play it more than the other ones, which is a sign that the game is actually pretty solid. And I would definitely say I would really like to see this game kind of expanded upon as to what it's going to be like in the full release. And again, I would definitely need to just sit down and play it more to kind of understand it. But for me personally, I kind of want to just go back and play Golden Light first so I can get used to it. And again, it's not a bad game. It definitely does seem to have some sort of love and passion put into it. And overall, it does. It has inventory mechanics, it has healing mechanics that I just need to get my fucking head wrapped around, which it's whatever. And it takes place in a setting that I like to call the Weird West, which, again, is a very interesting setting because it seems to be like Western stuff, but also has magic and random shit that actually is that. But, again, that's neither here nor there. And overall, I think this game was actually a nice, solid game that is very for that eclectic people. If you like Golden Light, I think you will like this game. Next up here, we have Halowfordge. Halowfordge is I kind of did like the idea of this game, but there were a couple of huge major problems that really made it a deal breaker and made you want to stop playing this game. Okay, so the premise here seemingly seems to be a stealth type shooter. Think Thief the Dark Project if you really want to make some sort of comparison here. You can stealth past enemies, and that's pretty cool. And you can go through and backstab enemies with the knife, as well as do several other things. And the problem that I ended up having is that I couldn't actually get past the tutorial for a few major regions. The main thing is that stealth, at least in the first part of the game, is very, very important. You have no way to defend yourself. You have no way to get out or away from enemies unless you just start sprinting or running or doing anything along those lines. You have a healing mechanic with a syringe that you can end up figuring out. You have to take coins from things, put them into machines to get health back. And all of that is fine and dandy and pretty interesting. But, again, here comes the huge major problems that I have with this. I'm not sure if this was specifically to my setup, or if this is a thing that seems to be with the game, but normally when you have a game pulled up in full screen, you tend to have your cursor be dragged to the center of the screen by by the game itself. Unfortunately, I have a dual monitor setup. Now, this dual monitor setup does lead to some problems, but never a problem like this specifically. Because if I moved my mouse too far to the right, it seems that it went off and onto my second monitor rather than being pulled and staying on the first monitor where the game was. Meaning that if you see me spinning around in the other direction, that's because I'm moving my mouse the other direction to make sure that it stays on the screen so I can actually control my fucking character. The entire time, this thing infuriated me, and I couldn't get through more than 10 to 15 minutes of this game because that is a major problem. And I'm not sure if it's because it's the developer or because it's the game or because it was just a glitch that happened with specifically the demo, but if you're going to have a game like this, make sure that you actually have the cursor be towards the center of your screen so you can control your fucking character. I thought that was pretty easy. But again, this is a demo, so we should expect stuff like that. But overall, that's not to say that the game is bad. When it did work, and when it did actually, have the ability to control my character and actually do things, it was actually pretty cool and pretty fun and interesting. Then there gets to the enemies. Now, the enemy AI isn't the greatest because they're supposed to be like zombies, I think, which is not bad, but it led to a problem where I couldn't actually defend myself unless I was stealthing past the enemy. And what ended up being the biggest problem is that the beginning enemies will tend to grab you and bite you. And that leads you to getting hurt, which unfortunately you can't actually go to stab the enemy when you pick up a knife to be able to do anything. You have to go around and behind them in order to even kill them in the first place, which is a little bit infuriating. And I would at least like to defend myself a little bit in this context, but it's to me, I got up to the fourth or fifth room, and then I just had to put the game down because overall it is not, at least in terms of the ways that it was, those several things really infuriated me, and I couldn't only get 10 minutes, and I just gave up on it. I do think that if they address the issue of at least the player controllers, maybe tightening that up a little bit because it felt a little floaty, as well as making sure that main glitch of your mouse cursor going onto your second or third monitor in and of itself doesn't happen in the full release, I think that you can actually have a solid game here. And I do think that tweaking how the enemies attack you so that way you can at least get up behind them or do something along those lines would do it. And again, I do think that also is a skill issue in terms of the enemies and sneaking around. But I cannot excuse the staple of having your mouse going off the screen onto a different screen on your computer setup, all because you have all this other stuff. It is weird. Or at least try to keep it on the one screen if you can't get it to where it sticks onto the thing. That was very major and was one of the reasons why I gave up on it. But next up here, we have Into the Void. This one was probably the best of all of them. Not for any particular reason of trying to reinvent the wheel, because it's very much an arena shooter, a Doom-style shooter, an old-school Doom-style shooter, mind you, but damn. This game's art style, this game's controls, this game's just general gameplay feel and loop, holy crap, this was actually fun. And I think it was because it was either late at night or because of the fact that I had the other three games to compare this one to, but this one felt the most complete and ready to be actually shipped, as far as I could tell. So the general story of this one is that you are, I think, an experiment or some sort of test subject that was given up on by the organization that you were working under, and you now have to go and try to get to the void in order to shut down the experiments. Seems to be very simple, and again, seems to be following along with the same process here. It does, again, feel like other Doom-style shooters. I mainly am chalking it up to, I believe, I mainly will chalk this up to the first Forgive Me Father and Forgive Me Father 2. Both of those are, again, Doom-styled games, and both of those are very fun, tight gameplay loops, and this one is definitely no exception. It also feels in some ways like Madness Combat because of how simple the art style is. It's very black and white, literally black and white, in terms of how the actual game works. It's your standard Doom-style shooter with an extra little twist of you can kick people, which isn't really that much of a twist. It's just kind of expected in some ways, but the way that the game felt and the way that the game operated was pretty cool. It felt like when you're kicking down doors, it felt like you were John Wick kind of moving through and destroying the bad guys there. And again, the simple art style and the simple methods of the actual game's look really made it run crystal clear and very smooth. It overall is one that, even with my limited amount of gameplay, that I actually wanted to go back and play. Of the 4 that I've listed here, this was one of the only ones that I wanted to actually go back and play more of because of how good the first 10 to 15 minutes was. And overall, I think that right there shows how highly, highly, highly I recommend this specific game if you're an FPS trash panda like myself. But overall, all of these demos were actually pretty solid, and I wanted to just make these videos just to talk about Next Fest and to, I guess, put out a third video this week because I am there. Now, the last game I'm just going to quickly talk about is the game that I played for the video that I called, that was for the Blue Drake video, and that was Escape from Dokov. I did say that there was a demo out, and that demo is now no longer available, and that sucks, and I do wanted to give that quick little side update. But I did also want to shout out this game, because this game, at least for Escape from Dokov, is another one that is in part of the extraction shooter genre, but it seems to be more of like a top-down type of shooter, which I didn't think that I would like, but when I tried it out, I realized, holy shit, this actually is very solid. Another game that I would highly recommend that you watch out for when it does drop, because again, if you like the extraction type shooter, it does seem to be that way. It does seem to be a single player type game, which I'm fine with a single player extraction shooter that like kind of operates similar to Tarkov, because I've been kind of looking for that Tarkov fix. But it also feels like one of those games that would exist in the world of Tarkov, where some indie developer decided to make a game like this for the PMCs to kind of play in their downtime, which I think this game was highly, highly, highly be within the universe. I just love to see that funniness of it. But overall, Escape from Dokov for me was one that I think that you should look out for as well. It wasn't part of Steam Next Fest. It just happened to have a demo that I played, and I wish that there was more of that demo. But overall, I think that that's another game to shout out, just because I'm shouting out video games in this one. Anyway, I told you that there would be a small update for this, and that's what I'm going to have here. The small update here is that I have finally done the big project that I actually wanted to do that's going to be releasing Tuesday of next week, my standard Tuesday upload, as well as I am going to be doing a couple other different types of games like this, videos like this, where I'm going to be experimenting a little bit more with content stuff, not just doing sold content, because I've realized how not terrible it is, but how it's kind of affecting me in some way, shape, or form in a negative way. Don't worry, salt content is not going anywhere. There will still be salt, just that expect more variety when it comes to specific games, when it comes to specifically reviewing and talking about games, because this game is a gaming channel, and I do want to talk more positively and do more positive things as well. And do expect more music to be dropping this year, as I am working on album 7, I believe, as well as a couple of singles, which I don't have specific release dates for, as I do most of the bulk of the work of making the song, and then it has to be me trying to then get the wherewithal to make the album cover, which I do all of that in-house. I do that all of myself, and again, graphic designer and stuff, as well as the fact that over this past weekend I had a lot of stress on my plate because there was a test that I needed to take, as well as an interview, and I also took an extra shift at work just to get some extra money in there. So yeah, overall, I am not ashamed to admit that this past weekend did need to happen for me to have a reset of some kind, but overall, Next Fest and everything else here are games that I would recommend, and that's really it, and that's the standard update. If you like what it is that I do, want to support me in other way, shape, or form, other than a like and subscribe, which is always, always, always enough. And I think that's really it. My name's GamePang21, and a peace.
Hey man, can I get a favor?